We're talking about SNL, the history, the mysteries, and all the hot impressions and routines. But we're here for the numbers as well. So let's get statistical, so unpredictable, here on SNL Stats.
Yes, that is right. SNL Stats is live, celebrating episode number 900. Thank you very much to Will from America for our theme song. If you guys haven't heard it in the last pod, that is new. For those of you joining us for the first time tonight on YouTube, welcome. We're so happy to have you here. My name is John, and what we do here on our live shows is give you an immediate breakdown of our hot takes about the episode. We had such a great time being live with you after the Kristen Wiig episode at Christmas, so we knew we had to do it again, and I brought along a great panel with me. He is the host of the That Week In SNL podcast and joined us for our last live stream. Andrew Dick, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, I guess. Yes. Happy to be here.
Okay, well, that's what we need. You know, we go live because it's 1:10 a.m. That's why we're here. So, all right, we're here also with Andrew Haskell. He is one of our super fans that joins us many times on our roundtables for our super fan takeovers, and he's also one of the moderators on the Live from New York subreddit. Andrew Haskell, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. Let's sling some hot takes.
Yes, I'm so excited. So just to make it easier for the chat, Haskell will go with Haskell. Andrew Dick will go with Andrew just for tonight. So we'll make it clear who we're speaking to. So look, we're going to get right into it. This is the way that tonight's show is going to work. We're going to be live for about maybe 45 minutes to an hour. We'll see how much content we can get out with this episode. I know that I was certainly excited for the Dan Levy episode. That's why I wanted to do this. I knew it was episode 900. There was a lot of hype surrounding this. And I want to really just go around the panel, get your hot takes on the episode tonight, and then we're going to take questions from you in the audience in the chat. So if you're in the chat right now, prepare your questions, and we're going to take them live during the show. So Andrew Dick, I will start with you. Tell me a little bit about what you thought about tonight's episode.
I gotta say, not much worked for me in this episode. I'm kind of shocked. I like you. I was very interested in seeing what this episode would bring. I have never seen Schitt's Creek, so I don't really know much about Dan, but certainly Eugene has seen plenty of SCTV. So let's see what Dan has to bring. And I think beyond the two pre-tapes in parts of Update, this episode really fell flat for me, and I'm still trying minutes after the show, trying to put my finger on what exactly went wrong for me, and I haven't figured it out yet.
Yeah, that's totally fair. I think I was feeling similarly throughout the night. And here's the thing. I knew that we were doing the show tonight, and my biggest concern about going into it was, hey, is the whole panel going to feel the same way about the show? Is the chat going to feel the same way? And then there's not a lot of, fodder to talk about. But then I get on here, and Haskell basically says to me, well, Haskell, you tell me, what did you say about tonight's episode?
So I'm the opposite in the sense that I have seen Schitt's Creek, a fan of Dan's, but I wasn't crazy over the moon anticipating this episode. And yet for me, it was probably in the top 3 most consistent episodes of the season for me. We can go through down the line, but I think Timothy Chalamet's episode is probably the top of the list for me. And then it probably this episode can slot in there. It might not go down as one of the most memorable episodes, but I really only slot in. I had one, and we'll probably we'll go sketch by sketch. But I only really had one dud in there for me. But yeah, for me it was a good episode. That probably speaks more to the consistency of this season, especially the COVID season. To say it's been one of the best episodes of the season, but yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed tonight's episode.
Yeah, and here's the thing for me. I watch Schitt's Creek and I love that show. I think it is one of the, the best sitcoms that has come out in the last few years. I think it's really brilliant. And I was trying to put my finger on what I loved about Schitt's Creek. And it was, watching they on Netflix, they have a documentary with the cast of Schitt's Creek talking about the development of the show. And it's Dan and Eugene Levy who wrote the show. And when Dan and Eugene sat down, to develop the show, and it was really Dan's idea for it, Eugene basically said, hey, we're not going to put this show out until we develop our characters. That was really important because Eugene Levy has a history of creating, whether it's movies or TV shows, and really developing the characters. And I think that's what I loved about Schitt's Creek. Tonight on SNL, when you're doing, 3 to 5 minute to 7 minute sketches, potentially, you don't have the same opportunity for character development in the way that, I would have loved to see, Dan Levy written sketches. And that was, maybe slightly disappointing for me that I didn't, get the concepts of some of the things that they were going for tonight. So, Andrew, talk to me a little bit about some sketches that stood out for you tonight, ones that you really want to talk about.
The Zillow pre-tape, that amused me, for sure. I did enjoy it. I've been house hunting lately myself. So just that kind of hit, at this particular time for me. And, with the pre-tape, they're able to hit the beats a little bit better. So that one worked for me. And also the final pre-tape was also, sort of an interesting one as well. But I feel like most of the episode, like, I was either trying to, what was I trying to do? Like the monologue. The monologue should have been really interesting because I felt like that's what I've been waiting for months, is to like go back and explore what the COVID protocol backstage area for SNL is. And I felt like beyond 80 as the stay 6 feet away, no pointing. I guess I got a chuckle out of that initially, but I felt there was no jokes. Like so many times in this episode, I was sitting there and it's like, okay, you've established the concept, but there wasn't any unraveling of the concept. It was just that concept and not really many laugh lines to go along with it. So most of the time I was kind of baffled.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I was super excited when I heard that they were going backstage. That's what we want. Those are the stuff that, when you think about monologues in any given season, you often think about backstage monologues because, those are the ones that are very meta about the show. And then you kind of, learn the cast and you learn more about the show. So yeah, there were some cute things in here, including, the showgirls in the back with Keenan. They were in like those bubble soccer things, which I thought was like a nice touch. And there was a couple.
Was that just a prop llama? I was trying to figure that out.
I have to go back and check, but yeah, it was weird. I see, our friend Bill Kenny's in the chat, and he said it was a little bit eerie to see the backstage that empty. And yeah, that's true. I mean, you're not going to get your typical backstage. Like
I felt like maybe that was the way to lean into it. Was like it was eerie and quiet. And yet they were still doing it like it was a big bombastic trip backstage. And I like maybe that's kind of like what's been not working for me for this episode, is that it feels big and bombastic, yet the jokes are small. So it never really truly jived. And I think maybe the monologue truly is like where it kind of had that first big misstep for me.
Yeah. Haskell, what was your opinion on the monologue? Because I do think that, I want to hear what you have to say, but I do think that this monologue actually may end up being the thing that we remember from this episode a few years from now. So what was your opinion on it?
Yeah, I mean, first thing when you're watching it, going into the cold open and then the monologue, the first thing I had was how great is it now to have 80 back and have 80 back in person consistently. So she was great in it. The Keenan bit worked for me because I remember reading, funny enough, in a review of the animated Grinch a few years ago, that Keenan is at his best when he's somehow playing the straight man and kind of an airhead at the same time, and they did that really well. But yeah, then it was just sort of like it was a quick trip through the backstage area where we were immediately kind of like back to the bleachers. I mean, come on, it's Eugene Levy, and he was great in the box. Would have liked to see him do a little bit more there. So definitely the monologue, what they did worked for me, but it was just a little quick. That was a quick trip through the backstage area.
Yeah, Andrew, can you talk to me a little bit about Eugene Levy and his history with the show? Because I found it interesting when they put him in the box, and I was actually thinking to myself at the time, was that all they could do with him? Because maybe there actually was some type of protocol where he actually wasn't allowed to be with them, so they almost wrote the comedy for the actual protocol. But I was at least happy to see him. I didn't think we were going to get to see him. So how did you feel about it? And what's your opinion on his history with the show?
Well, I thought it was interesting from many points, because I think it was Chris Redd who had tweeted out earlier in the week something about the safety officers not enjoying the jokes at their expense. So they were going to double down on that in a very SNL way. And so I when I saw this 80 popping up in the monologue like this, I was like, oh, that's their joke about that. And Eugene, I mean, the whole sort of like SCTV, SNL, crossover to whatever degree it exists is interesting, because like SCTV was basically a sister show to SNL when Lorne wasn't there. It was in the early 80s, to the point that even like NBC was kind of toying with the idea of like, let's see if we can get the entire cast of SCTV onto the show. I think they only ended up with Robin Duke and Tony Rosato, and later on Martin Short. And I think Eugene was potentially supposed to host in season 10, I think. And then writer's strike or budget cuts or something. It didn't happen. Strike. Yeah. So that episode didn't happen. And it's kind of weird, because the episodes that Ebersol actually had SCTV alum on, it was like Rick Moranis and Dave Thomas and John Candy. It's been a while since I've seen them. I'm actually going to rewatch them here soon. But I remember them being kind of middling, honestly. Like the whole SCTV vibe doesn't really fit into SNL, because, as you say, it's more character focused, but in a much quieter way. It's very SCTV is a much different beast than SNL. So the whole idea of trying to bring that on into the SNL, machinery, I don't know has always worked, but it was nice to see Eugene there. Again, I am assuming that it was true that, maybe he did fly in from LA and probably did need to be quarantined to some degree, and that was their way of joking about it. And it was just nice to see, for sure.
Yeah, and our friend James in the chat also says that Catherine O'Hara, the pointing to the photo, as a nod to her role and her relationship with Dan from Schitt's Creek, that was nice as well. So that was a very nice touch. Haskell, did you want to say anything else about the monologue, or should we kind of get to some of the sketches?
It just Eugene Levy was on stage for the Good Nights, so I don't know if it was fully. Now, of course, he's in a mask and everything, so maybe it's there, but I don't know if it was fully like a quarantine thing. If he could have appeared on the stage in the monologue wearing a mask and done a little bit more, I would have been really excited for it.
Yeah, definitely. Unfortunately, in another year, potentially we would have gotten that. Let's talk about Zillow. I know that one of you guys brought that up, and for me, absolute highlight of the night. I think this was hilarious. This was so funny. The real estate, version of a sex site. The I want to flip that. I just found everything about this was so clever and so funny. And I do feel that whether you agree or disagree with the messages that were sent, almost every single sketch tonight was a little bit preachy in terms of like the messages that they were trying to get across. But with Zillow, it was just funny. And that's what I enjoyed the most about it, is that I just felt like this was just clever and funny. And Andrew, do you agree with me?
You know, you're hitting on a point I hadn't really considered. But yeah, it did just seem like a regular comedy sketch. And I'm not against SNL sketches having a viewpoint, but there was some degree of preachiness to this episode. Or something like that. Maybe preachiness isn't the word, but
Yeah.
there was just something about this episode that kept kind of turning me off. And Zillow was the one where it was kind of wacky, dumb fun. And, you know, you get like, oh, I want to flip that. Like that was, yeah, maybe my biggest laugh from a laugh line in this episode. So yeah, enjoyable.
Yeah, Haskell, jump in on that because for me, like I couldn't agree more. This was just so funny, and yeah, maybe preachy is the wrong word, but I do feel like this was the one that just like you could put in any episode, any season of the show, and this is funny. This didn't need Dan Levy in it to be funny. I don't know. So tell me what you think.
And the other thing too, and why I think this is obviously you guys disagree on the quality of the episode, but we all agree on the quality of this sketch. And Andrew, you spoke about how a lot of the sketches tonight, good premises, we didn't dig into the premise. The reason this is the strongest sketch of the night is it was great. And if it was just kind of like a sex hotline parody, that's enough for an SNL sketch. And then you jump in and you get the Cecily as the real estate agent part where you do unravel it a little bit and you kind of jump out of it, which to me was probably the highlight of not only the sketch but the night. So I think that's why
it had a twist.
You're right. It had a nice little twist. We jumped out of this weird sex hotline kind of infomercial, whatever we were doing. So that's why that was the highlight for me of probably the whole night.
Yeah. Well, Haskell, you liked a lot more. So give me another sketch that you really enjoyed that you want to talk about. Yeah.
So I had early on things were working for me. I think I don't know if anybody else felt this way about the cold open. At first, you had like the graphics mistake. You had the boom mic showing up in the shot. Keenan kind of flubbed a few lines. I think few people flubbed a few lines. But once you were able to kind of catch your bearings and figure out what was going on outside of some technical difficulties, I thought that sketch really worked. They bounced around a few different ways. So that was really fun to see them do something a little bit different.
Let's put a pin on that before you go on to any other one, because I want to go sketch by sketch by the ones that you really want to talk about, and then we'll take questions. But this is what I'll say for the cold open. I'm a sports guy. I mean, I know all the guys that they're playing. I've watched the CBS pregame shows before. To me, like everything that they did, was okay. But what was great about the cold open, the only thing that I felt was great about the cold open was all the commercials. I think that the whole cold open should have been about Super Bowl commercials, and it could have been one of those. They could have done it where it was like I said, I'm not a sketch writer, but I'm just hypothesizing. It could have been NFL Network show where they were going through the top 100 Super Bowl commercials and taken that segment of the cold open and really expanded on that. And I think that was the point where they actually had a lot of good comedy there. The other parts of the cold open lacked for me. Andrew, your thoughts?
Well, I will say this. Even though it went into a political arena eventually, it was nice just to basically have a non-political cold open. Again, we're kind of heading that way again, and that's very nice to see. This one never really launched for me. The whole two-sidesing of the commercials, the gags just didn't ever really hit for me, honestly. And I'm not a sports guy, so I don't know exactly who Alex Moffat was playing, but his weird little interjections, like in between lines, like Alex had something going on with that character that really got to me. And I don't know if he's specifically hitting on what that guy actually does, but he had like small in between sentences bits that really amused me.
I think he's playing Bill Cowher, who is the former coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers, won a Super Bowl with them and retired not soon after. And I think he just rambles a lot. I think that was the thing, and they played off of that.
Oh, okay. He just kept on making these weird sounds in between sentences, and that just kept on making me chuckle. So,
yeah.
Don't know if it's based in reality.
Yeah, that's fair. Haskell, give me another one. What else did you like?
And then the Universal tour worked for me. I think that was where Dan Levy got to just kind of be a little weird. And anytime I think SNL does a good job of like the new employee does not understand the norms of this job. They normally do a good job, I think. And, you know, you're bouncing off some different stories and stuff. And I also liked a little bit of the twist of like how outside of Mikey Day, who's playing the straight man, everybody else sort of came around to him and what he was doing really quickly. And like, I think Ego was like the MVP of this episode, and it starts really early in this one. Like she was killing it with her reactions, especially like that's dark, but that makes sense. Like that line was killer to me. So that was another one that probably the reason I think this episode was so strong, because it started kind of stronger for me. So if it tailed off towards the middle, that's probably, you know, I'm going to disregard that a little bit more, but early on, I thought that was a really strong episode, really strong sketch to start.
Yeah. Andrew, what is your softener?
Yeah, this sketch, potentially. Yeah, this didn't do anything for me. I felt like it was running through beats we've seen so many times before. Incredulous Mikey, the person that agrees with the person saying the wacky things. Keenan demanding more. It's been done so many times for me. And yeah, Ego did a good job delivering those lines, but we've seen a billion people deliver it that same sort of. I mean, I don't want to disagree. You know, I don't want to smash.
This
on
is good,
Andrew's
guys.
opinions here, but you know,
Yeah,
it's just
this
like,
is good.
I felt like we've gone down that well so many times that it was just like I felt like I saw every beat coming of that, and nothing that they were unraveling with the Back to the Future thing, and already the episode's kind of escaping my brain. So the other beats in it weren't working for me either. I don't want to be too negative, so I'll shut up now.
Don't worry, there's nothing wrong with being negative. It's good that people had different opinions. It's going to happen in any episode, so I think that's fine. But I do think there was some stuff that was funny here. And look, if you feel like you've seen one, you know, Mikey and Streeter sketch, then you've seen them all, and that's your general opinion about, you know, these repetitive jokes and things like that. That's fine, but you know, some people really enjoy this stuff. So I think that the softener being Newman from Seinfeld, I thought that was funny, or Dobby or Mr. Bean. Like I think those things were a little bit funny. But all right, Haskell, give me something else. Anything else that you really liked from the episode?
I want to know his dud. Actually, I want to know what the one dud is.
Yeah, let's hear that.
The dud was late for me. It was that wedding sketch, because to me, there was a piece of the puzzle missing. And I understand sketch comedy, SNL, all of it can be incredibly random, and so much of the humor comes from randomness. But it felt like those characters that Dan and Kate were playing, there was like a chunk of context missing to figuring out like what is going on here, like who are these? And I don't want to like dive too deep in it, because sketch comedy so many times is like, who is this person? Why is this person in this space? But in this case, it just didn't work for me. It was short on top of that. Just kind of an open ending, not a strong ending. That to me was the dud that I was just like, kind of glad that one's over.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, we were joking around during the show, Andrew, about which I know you said was probably the best part of the show, but Phoebe Bridgers smashing her guitar and screaming, and
Yes!
in a way, like.
Metal!
You know, in a way, I kind of related to that moment where I just felt that I was so excited for the Dan Levy episode, just because, you know, like I said, I love Schitt's Creek and I love him, but I just really felt that I was like almost just like had a guitar that I just wanted to smash at some points, because I was just waiting for that like one gold sketch that I didn't get. Yeah. But you know, like I said, let's kind of, is there any other ones that you guys want to talk about before we start taking questions from the chat?
Well, we mentioned preachiness, right? So
Yeah.
I feel like we have to talk about the COVID Super Bowl party, where it was very on the nose. And when you're on the nose, it's gonna feel preachy. I get why people are gonna like. That's gonna be the thing. Like people are gonna call it preachy. I thought it worked up until a point. Again, it was lacking an ending. Heidi got to show off her Chiefs jersey. I'm sure everybody's seen. She's been on like every list of celebrity Chiefs fans, so she got to show off her jersey. I thought she had some of the best lines. A little bit of an error, I think, by like trying to talk through the eating of the chili. I think we lost a couple of her lines.
Yeah, there was a line out of Heidi I did not understand.
Yeah. I'm just laughing because I had the same moment. I was like, I don't know what the hell she's saying. And yeah, no, I'm with you, Haskell, on that. The Bowen as Psy thing was the weirdest choice for an ending to a sketch. It is 2021, not 2012. I don't know what this was doing in there.
Well, it was like a hat on a hat because you had the Fauci misdirect ending, and then you ended on the Psy, and it's just like, what? And it wasn't the good kind of what?
Yeah. I mean, if they had, I know Bobby Moynihan used to play Psy during like 2012. If Bobby came back and played Psy, like, fine, I'll give you that. I would have been okay with that. I'm just going through the sketches. Look, lifting our voices. Anything you guys have to say about that one? For me, it was the most we've seen Punky, which was nice to see her a little bit more. Kyle made me laugh. Kyle was really weird.
Kyle's great at making your skin crawl. If Kyle can make your skin crawl with his, then he's doing his job, and he did that in that sketch.
Yeah, I've known like that character that Kyle's played. Like I've met that character once or twice before.
Well, and I think like these two sketches, like the COVID bubble Super Bowl thing and the Black talk show, both had like that same level of preachiness and like obviousness to it. Like we're just gonna, here's the concept, but there's no real twist. Like the Super Bowl thing, like, okay, like it doesn't take a fucking rocket, doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that, you know, they're all
way to Jenny Slate it on the live show. Yeah.
They're all breaking protocol. And that it's such an obvious way to go. And so then, you know, you have all these people that are too overzealous in their love of Black culture. And it's just like there was no twist to it, even though there was decent character work in there for sure. Like you said, like Kyle, I think, had the most interesting run of it for sure. And really kind of diving into the griminess that I felt like maybe that would have really helped. But again, it all felt very baseline to me. Like, do we set up the concept and we just hang in that concept and don't really explore it in ways that I found interesting?
Yeah, that's fair. Anything on Update, guys, that you want to talk about? For me, the highlight of Update was the Chris and Keenan's The New Trend. I don't know if either of you related to that, but I have watched those guys on YouTube listen to Phil Collins, and I have had this conversation with my girlfriend so many times, and I was like, there is no way these guys have not heard the songs prior to them listening to it on YouTube. I mean, it's the greatest thing in the world to see their reactions, but I just like, I felt like this was such low-hanging fruit, but I loved it so much. And this was to me, one of the best parts of the episode. Do either of you guys agree with me?
Yeah. And it shows, you know, especially in an episode where if you're watching it live, you get a couple commercials for Keenan's show, which has Chris Redd in it. So it makes sense to, hey, let's showcase the chemistry of Chris and Keenan, which we haven't really gotten too terribly much in the show. Yeah, they were it was quite amusing. Them jiving to the Meow Mix thing. I wanted to go on for the rest of the episode. That could have been just an update in the last 30 minutes, is them just rocking back to the Meow Mix song, because I found that mighty amusing.
Yeah, definitely. And Haskell, our friend Sammy in the chat, says he loved the meta moment with them not recognizing the SNL theme. And I love that too. I thought that was so fun.
Yeah, they kind of set, I was like, about 2 songs in, I was like, are they going to try SNL theme? And it was smart leaving it to the end. It was kind of a nice little moment, but Keenan and Chris, I think, killed it in that spot. They didn't even need, typically an update, you need the straight man, you need to come back to the anchor. And like, I don't think you needed Shay there. Like, just the reactions that you were getting out of Keenan and Chris for each song was so like almost pure, like almost like the actual videos that it was incredibly fun.
Yeah. Andrew, do you want to address the Morgan Wallen thing, or should we just skip right? Like, have we given this too much attention?
Well, you know what? My thing was, I felt it was a bit too obvious. You went with the Colin Jost. I thought the funnier, edgier joke would have been a picture of him and Michael Che. I thought that would have been the but yeah, did throw it, like, you know, I love Colin and Michael together, but like, it's been many years, and so that kind of joke is starting to really fall fallow for me. And again, that apology sketch in the Morgan Wallen episode is one of the worst things I've seen the show do in quite some time. So it was, you really needed to hit a home run on your let's bag on Morgan Wallen joke, and I don't, it was a pretty softball for me, to be honest.
Yeah. By the way, Bill, our friend Bill in the chat, says they should have done another Wallen apology sketch, and that would have been funny if they did it all over again. All right, Haskell, you want to touch on that?
Yeah, I'm not. If SNL is going to do simply like the image gag, and Jost and Che got a lot of this early in their tenure update, that they did too many just like image gags. If you're gonna do that, it's got to be killer for me on update. Like, it's just because like I'm here for monologue style jokes. The images, they got to be great. And I almost wish that they, like, Che kind of just came to the Morgan Waller like headline and then was just like punting it away. Like, I think it would have been funnier if he was just like, well, we can't touch that joke.
Or you just had like a Michael Che rant.
Yeah, like, even if
or he pulled out the drink, we got more drunk Che or something, like as something different.
Or at the very least, if you wanted to make the Colin Jost joke, I just didn't need it in image form. To me, that's just not what I'm here on update for.
Yeah,
Love
that's
those photo jokes.
Anything else from update, guys? That was interesting, or no?
Well, what did we think about Mikey and Heidi's child canceling characters? I never got a grasp on that, to be honest.
Me neither. I don't like. It was fine. Like, I understand the concept. I just it didn't do it for me. Like, it didn't have the. Maybe it was low energy. I think that's what I felt. I felt like there was like sometimes Michael and Colin are like so like bang 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 with the jokes, and I get like
specifically tonight. I actually want to point that out. They felt like they were really hammering home some jokes and not even letting any time for you to drink it in. And I don't know if that was like some time saving thing. But
well, James in the chat, he said they cut about 3 minutes from update during the live broadcast, so that happened during the show. So it's very possible. But like I said, the thing that Colin and Che have really done over the last few years that has improved, besides getting a little bit harsher in their commentary, is just they're just high energy, and like everyone wakes up for update because they're excited to see it. And I do find that when you bring in characters that are a little bit lower, it could either absolutely kill because you have a difference in energy that really like makes you interested, or it could die. I'm not saying that this died. I just didn't really do it for me. And the Chris and Keenan thing really did. Haskell, your opinion?
So and somebody put it in the comments too. Mikey Day was doing Jebediah Atkinson.
Oh yeah,
like, he was doing Taron Killam. For that character,
I wanted next.
Yeah, like, I thought the the jokes that they were making were hit and miss. I honestly, in the moment, I liked it. Now thinking back on it, everything that they were canceling those kids for is kind of escaping me. I thought calling the little baby racist because it was crying when it got delivered is fine. It's just I feel like there's more there for those characters, and I thought it was okay.
I mean, was there potential for them to use a baby photo or a child photo of Che and Colin at one point, and that could be a gag in somewhere in there? I don't know. Anyways, we'll kind of move on from there and see what else was in the episode. Hot damn for me. I mean, we've seen this sketch before where musicians don't know the song and then eventually they do. My opinion has always been the same on this thing, which this is just a bad version of a sketch that I absolutely love. One of my all-time favorite SNL sketches, which is a song memories sketch with Will Forte, Jason Sudeikis, and Bill Hader that they used to do with a bunch of hosts that would come in and a song would be playing on the jukebox and they'd be telling some weird story and then they would all sing the chorus. And it was like, that to me was one of the best things that they've done in like the last 20 years or whatever it is. And I always felt like this was just like a weird take on that on a little bit. And it never really did it for me. Andrew, you agree?
Yeah. Well, and this whole episode just kind of had that campy vibe that I don't feel SNL ever really does well for me. I have no problem with camp, for sure. But yeah, specifically like that sketch, like we've done it to death. And the whole song, it was just white noise. It just immediately became white noise. Once it started and they're like, oh, we got a song for the Super Bowl. And I was like, I don't care. I don't care.
Yeah. All right. That's fair. I mean, okay. So look, I mean, that's pretty much the episode. Haskell, do you want to touch on anything else before we take questions?
That's pretty much the episode.
That sketch, it's funny that you connected to the memory sketch. That style of like, here's a song, you guys, it's totally a real song and you guys are going to remember eventually. To me, the Woody Harrelson, I think it was SNL 40, Apples.
Apples
is
my arch rival, Apples.
That's a better version of that. The Thanksgiving song from a few years ago is a better version of that. What hurt this sketch, I think that to me, this mold can work. It's just the song didn't work. The song was kind of forgettable. There wasn't a lot of like lines that you're going to remember from it. You weren't kind of singing along with it like you have with other versions of this sketch. So honestly, I don't remember a single line from the song that they sang tonight.
Yeah, it also kind of reminds me of those. There was like a Kristen Wiig sketch, and maybe Fred back in the day, where there was like "Are you really gonna make me sing, or are you really gonna make me dance?" Like those ones. That kind of reminds me of that too. So, all right, let's take some.
Killing me.
Yeah, let's take some questions from the chat so that Andrew can answer some things and take his mind off some parts of this episode. So one of the questions that I saw earlier, I'll see if I can bring it up. I know that our friend Casey Killingsworth, he writes a great SNL blog that reviews different episodes, and he wrote, "What would SNL have been like if in season 10?" Eugene Levy had hosted with John Candy as it was intended. Andrew, can you give me that, fan fiction of if we had actually seen that episode, what it would have been remembered for?
I don't know. I really, I think it would have been a quieter type of episode, most likely. I really would like to have seen what a Christopher Guest would have done with a Eugene Levy on SNL, because obviously they'd done plenty of film work later on, so that might have been interesting. Season 10 is such a weird beast that I really can't picture what the Eugene Levy and John Candy episode might have been, to be honest. It might have just been a bunch of Billy Crystal sketches. Who knows.
Yeah, that's fair. Haskell, you got an opinion on that? I know you just did the time machine with, or the alternate universe with the superfans.
It probably would have been remembered as Eugene Levy's one-time hosting SNL, because I don't big fan of his. Obviously, his career is incredible, but it wouldn't have moved the needle to the point where his career changes in any different way, where he would have come back and hosted 10 times or anything. So I think it simply would have been remembered as the time he hosted, and you would have gotten some SCTV type inspired sketches. And
Martin Short was there, so you might have gotten some crossover there.
It's probably more memorable as the episode we didn't get, then it would have been memorable as an episode that we did get.
Probably.
Yeah. What do you guys think tonight about the cast specifically? There was no Pete Davidson, no Chloe Fineman tonight. So there were some elements. I mean, last episode was the first episode we had with all 20 cast members appearing. And tonight there were some noticeable absences. Do you think that negatively impact the show, Andrew?
Yes. I feel that perfectly explains the one lane that I feel like this episode kind of stayed in. Melissa too. I mean, she appeared briefly in the monologue, but we might as well not even count that as well. No Lauren as well. I don't think Lauren appeared. Yeah, that's not good. This episode very much had one kind of lane that it stuck in, and people got shut out. And with a cast this big, I feel you need to make the effort to get everybody in there to a good degree, especially Melissa. Like I started watching this episode with my mother, and she's watched the episode, the show many times with me. Melissa's name came up in the main credits, and she's like, "Who's she?" And I was like, Exactly.
Yeah, they should change her name in the opening credits to Who's She.
Yeah.
All right, Haskell, what do you think with regards to the cast tonight?
Yeah, Pete, not having Pete there was a big one. I'm of my big prediction moving forward is I think Pete Davidson's getting an Emmy nomination for this season. In the same way that we've seen kind of the SNL is kind of starting to rack up the best supporting actress nominations in the Emmys. Like they're becoming more recognized for it. I think he's going to get it for this season because I think he was killer the first half of the season. And with that said, it's so noticeable when he's not here. Hate seeing Chloe Fineman shut out. Like I think Chloe, Ego, and Heidi are your kind of your backbone moving forward, especially as you lose Kate, Cecily, 80. Anytime that I don't see them, it's just like it almost feels like you have we got the Super Bowl today or later today. It feels like you have a great rookie or a great up and coming player, and you have a chance to get them on the field and get them more reps, and you're not giving them to them. Ego obviously had a great episode, and she's having a great season. Chloe should be breaking out after the at home episodes where she was at her best last season. And Heidi, she was in tonight's episode, but I'm on the record that she's your quarterback moving forward. I think she's your Kate McKinnon, Kristen Wiig once Kate McKinnon's gone. And like I want to see her, anchoring sketches. I don't want to just see her kind of going through the motions.
Yeah, for sure.
I want to bring up something.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, sorry. Okay. I want to bring up something Ruby just said. 80 and Cecily are so not locked into character that it's become distracting. Also throw Kate in there for me as well. I was discussing with my podcast co-host the other day about Kate and 80. Just like the fact that like with Kate, like this season, we're simply going with the idea of like Kate's not even doing a character anymore. It's just Kate, and like her misery is now we're all of our own, and like the whole 80 thing in the cold open where we were kind of goofing with the fact, like it almost could have been fun. We're goofing with the fact that we're live and she's switching between the two characters, but it feels so non-committal that it really bothers me at this point with these long tenured people that they simply, it seems like nobody has any more gas left in the tank, that they're just like, I will play myself or I will play a non-character. And that's really starting to irritate me. I'm not happy to see 80 back. The first chunk of this season, I love 80. The show didn't crumble with her gone, especially since the fact that we have basically like Lauren's there, and for whatever reason they thought to cast a woman who looks exactly and sounds exactly like 80. And we still haven't seen what exactly she brings to the show. And it's really, I'm starting to question what the hell the show is doing. Like, what is the game plan here? What is the game plan?
Go ahead.
I wonder if years from now, because we are playing into like Kate, she's done the same character a few times, and you're saying she's doing it with all her characters, but there's been a few specific times where they've come out and said, I'm going crazy. And it's almost like she's saying, I'm going crazy being here. And like, are we gonna find out you know, whatever down the line that like Kate McKinnon was gone last season. She was out the door, then the pandemic hit, so she stayed, and in all reality, she's not as happy about it as you would maybe imagine. And so you know, in our minds, people that aren't on SNL would love to be on SNL. You're thinking, so your movies got pushed off. You stayed at SNL for an extra year, and that's great. In her mind, is she's saying, I was out the door, and I'm here because I'm keeping my profile up. Obviously, I'm getting paid. It's something to do until I can go off and do my movies. But you're right. You bring up a great point where there's been a few characters this year where they've straight up, you know, called cut and said, Kate, why don't you address the crowd about how you're going crazy being here?
Well, I think the demarcation point, and I hate to bring this up because a lot of people use this as a focal point, and I don't think it's as bad as it is, but it's at the Hallelujah cold open where, you know, then she breaks character from the non-Hillary character and says like, you know, I'm gonna fight, and I hope you will too. And I feel like that was like a huge demarcation point for what Kate was doing on the show, to where it became something different. And now I don't even think she has her heart in that anymore. And you know, it will be interesting to see just kind of what this season was when all the dust settles. What was going on here? Because, I feel the show is making choices it doesn't need to do. Like, we need to keep all these people on because what will they ever do? They'll never work again. Oh, 80 can't be in the first half of the season because she'll be working, and Cecily too.
Well, okay. Let me just take the other side of this because I totally respect where you guys are coming from, man, and I'm appreciative you're bringing it up. The K conversation is a conversation that we had last week because it was a really important point. She basically opened up the show in 2021 as herself. There was this meta aspect to it, and I did ask the question on the last week's show: is this a good thing for Kate to be doing? Maybe PR wise, maybe as you know, people get to know her character. You know, those things will play itself out as we get to the end of 46. I think what's happening is the show was not expecting, obviously, like everybody else, for there to be a pandemic. I believe some of the cast members that are here now would have left last year. I think that's been reported many times. And I think what's going to happen at the end of 46 and at the end of 47 is we're going to lose a lot of the players that we have had over the last few years that have really defined this, you know, mid to late, or I guess like early to mid 40s run. And I think you're going to see
Ruby.
And I think what you're going to see is you're going to see a lot of the featured stars that a lot of us have started to, you know, really fall in love with at the end of last year and at the beginning of this year really start to take hold in a couple years. I just think that there's going to be some speed bumps along the way, including getting to the end of 46, where there's going to be, whether you love it or not, some fodder with regards to, you know, playing into this is Kate's last season. This is potentially 80's last season, Cecily's last season. And we're going to see those players get a lot of airtime between now and the end of May. Haskell, your thoughts?
So I totally agree. And I know like the Kristen Wiig goodbye. Some people think it's too sappy. I want that. I want that for Kate. I want that for 80. I want that for Cecily. I want that goodbye. The thing about holding on too long, and Lorne doesn't really get rid of longtime cast members. If you look through the history of it, he doesn't get rid of people unless he's being forced to or if something major happens. But Lorne is not the guy who's just turning over the roster because, well, it's time for change. But if you stick to it too long, you get sort of Taron Killam, which is you lost a ton of people, you know, Bill Hader, Jason Sudeikis, Andy Samberg at a point, and you went, oh, it's Taron Killam's kind of, he's the lead guy now. 2 seasons later, he's gone because he's going to go do his movie. And that's where my worry is like, are we going to get one season where we're like, this is the Heidi Gardner that we were supposed to get? This is the Ego that we were supposed to get. Like, they're leading the charge now. And it's like, yeah, but they're already in season 5, 6, 7 of their own contracts. They spent too much time playing second fiddle to a core cast that really had we don't really think about it. This is one of the most prolonged chunks of SNL, if you want to call it a core or an era, whatever you want to call it. This is pretty much the most prolonged era in SNL history.
Again, Melissa's been there for 5 seasons. And, that is my problem here, is if this is supposed to be some sort of transitional season, we're not doing that right, because we have not set up Andrew, Lauren, or Punky at all, mostly. We're not doing any, we're not really seeing, things out of our tenured cast members that they've been dying to get on the air or something. I don't feel we're getting that as well. And as you say, even the people that we are thinking the show should be given over to are already there for 5-6 years. It's like the show is in a huge conundrum of a holding pattern for years. Writing staff, cast, concepts, everything. It is in a huge holding pattern. It's really starting to frustrate me, I have to say.
Yeah, look, I think there is there are many segments of the SNL community. I certainly understand that the super fans, which is, a lot of people who watch and participate in our podcast and are very invested in the cast members, will feel that, some of these people have overstayed their welcome at the detriment of other cast members that are currently there. But I do believe we're going to get there. I think it's probably going to be at the end of 47. But I think that, I have people asking me in the chat, look, I have people asking me in the chat, who do I think is leaving? I don't have anything to report. I don't have any specific answers, but I do think that the people to watch, clearly, as we learned, were Kate, Cecily, and 80. I think Colin is one to watch at the end of this year. I would have said Pete, but I think Pete is having his best year on the show. I could imagine him staying another year because of that. And then I think you're looking at a major purge next year. I don't think you're going to get this purge in the middle of a pandemic or near the end of a pandemic when they don't know what the situation is going to be towards, going into next year. But I do think that I feel very good. And I know there are some people who are in the chat right now who do like the cast, and that's great. I do think that there's a lot to look forward to in terms of 48, 49, and 50, about what we're potentially seeing in terms of these new hires that are doing a lot for the show right now.
Remember, I started the episode as the positive guy tonight, right? I liked the episode. I like this season. I like this cast. I was the positive guy tonight. I'm just, Andrew brought it out in me, some of the frustrations, I guess, that were bubbling under the surface.
Come to the dark side.
Yes. What I'm going to ask is, we're probably going to go for another maybe 10, 15 minutes, depending on how many questions we have in the chat, if that's cool with you guys. Is there, if you guys are in the chat right now, write to us any questions that you have, just so we can cover those things before we head out for the night.
Well, somebody brought up
Andrew.
an interest. Oh, sorry. I didn't mean
No, you go ahead. Go ahead. I want to hear what you're going to say. Yep.
Somebody brought up an interesting point, bouncing off of my rant about Kate playing herself, where, that's very much a thing the show has done before. And yes, you Chevy, even down to Gary Kroger, you have that thing. But that was more a focused bit, I feel. And this show at this point doesn't really trade in that kind of meta, this is just the cast member being the cast member anymore. So it doesn't feel so much of oh, this is an interesting new turn. It just feels like Kate is tired and out of ideas for me. Not so much we are tapping into an old school vibe for that. So that might be kind of, a little bit more of my problem where, in theory, yes, I do want to see this. Oh, it's Kate being Kate. That's cool. But it doesn't feel fun. It feels exhausted.
Yeah, that's fair. Let's talk a little bit about, we have 3 more episodes in this run. We know that Regina King is coming up next. I haven't heard, when they announced Krasinski, Levy, and King, I heard basically the most hype for the Levy episode. I know there's a lot of Office fans out there and they love Krasinski. I haven't heard a lot of hype for the Regina King episode. I know she's a wonderful actress, but you know what it is that I often find, and this has been what I found pretty much probably since season 40, is that the episodes that are the least hype sometimes end up being the best episodes of SNL. So let's go around the panel. Let's, make this a positive ending to the podcast. And let's talk a little bit about what you guys would like to see in the next 3 episodes so that we feel like this run is successful. So Haskell, let me hear from you.
It's going to sound like a broken record. Of course, we want to see some of those people that we're not seeing get a little bit more time, of course. But there is a little bit of like staying the course that I would like to see, which is like, I like that we're doing something different from the cold open, right? It does kind of like, it is a little bit of a slap in the face that they're like, hey, Alex Moffat's Biden now. By the way, he's never going to show up. But
not much to comment on right now, though.
And I'll take that. Let's do something different with the cold open each week. So stay the course that way. And that's it. Let's see something a little bit different from some of these people that we haven't seen. Shake up the order a little bit. It's always nice when you see those quote unquote 10-to-1 sketches show up early in the show. It feels like whenever they do that, it's always something weird and kind of extra weird. So continue to do stuff like that. But yeah, get some of these people on. I'm not one of those people that I think Punky is actually having a really great season. We haven't seen a lot from Lauren outside of typical featured player stuff. Andrew had his best episode last week. Didn't have much to do this week. When it comes to new rookies, I don't need to overexpose them. I don't need that stuff. But like Chloe Fineman needs obviously more than she got today. I think she needs more than she's gotten all season. So let me see some more Chloe Fineman. Let me see some more Ego. Let me see some more Heidi.
Yep. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Andrew Dick, tell me what you think about what you would like to see in the next few shows.
Well, I want to bounce off that. Just like, was it? We just pulled it up. James. James said after the February 20th show, NBC will rerun the series premiere of Keenan's new sitcom immediately after the night's live show. That's interesting. And speaking, we have. Dan Levy and all that. SCTV used to run after SNL in many markets and maybe almost live. I want something to run after SNL that is fun. And maybe it's us. Hey, maybe we're the fun thing after SNL. But I just the night just dies for me after the good night. So just like, bah, and that's it. No more fun television after SNL. So, Regina King, I am pumped for that. Somebody also brought up, Boondocks fan. So that's cool. She's a voice actress in the Boondocks. Seen only a bit of her acting work. She is mostly a dramatic actress. She just directed a film that was very highly recommended to me from my podcast co-host Timothy, One Night in Miami, which sounds very interesting. Said it was fantastic. And so, and not just because they're 2 Black females, but hopefully this has the vibe of the Issa Rae episode for me, where we kind of go a little bit more dramatic, a little bit more quieter in the whole concept of the sketch, where it's just something a little bit different in terms of approaching it. So yeah, have high hopes for that. And I don't think we really underlined it for this episode we're talking about right here, but I do feel like Phoebe Bridgers was the highlight of the show. So I do want to just throw that out there. I thought the 2 pretty solid performances.
Yeah.
So more good musical performances. I want more of that always. Like, got music on there. Let's have somebody who's going to put on a good live show.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the thing is, is for me what I want to see in the next few shows is, like I said, I do think that if you're talking about, we're going to take a macro view of where SNL is, looking at their cast and talking about what's going to happen in 47, 48, 49, 50. I think that we have to be patient with some of these older cast members, like we mentioned earlier in the cast. And I don't want to reiterate those points, but I do want to say is like, I just want the tidbits of like, give me a sketch where we get a Chloe and an Ego and a Heidi like leading that sketch. Like, let us see glimpses of what the future of SNL could be, so that for all the negative Nancys out there like Andrew Dick, they get excited about what the future is about the show, so they can see like, hey, we have these amazing cast members and the future looks really bright. And I think it does, because I'm excited about Bowen and Andrew and Punky, and I'm excited to see what these people can do moving forward. So what I really hope is that maybe this wasn't meant to be for the Dan Levy episode, even though a lot of us were very excited about it, but the Regina King episode and whatever comes in 4 and 5 of this run, I think we may get some more of that. So that's what I'm most excited about. Okay, is there... let me just answer this couple questions before we head out and do some plugs for the night. College Movie Geek, our friend says, before we go, do we think we are done with presidential cold opens? I do think that is an interesting question. As you guys mentioned, no Biden. I think the thing is like, look, if SNL doesn't have a take on it and doesn't have something funny to say, then, don't do it. And I think
had 4 years of that.
Yeah, exactly. Haskell, any comment on that?
I mean, we'll get a presidential cold open. Like it's not going to go extinct. Is the era of presidential cold open every week over? Yeah, it looks like it, at least for now. But I'm sure maybe not this season, maybe not during this run, are we going to get a Biden cold open. But we're going to get we'll get President Biden as a cold open at some point. I mean, it's still SNL,
And I'm just going to say, no more presidential cold opens ever. Done with them.
Yes. Exactly. We nobody's ever done any podcast on the history of presidential impressions.
No, never.
Yeah. Well, look, let me talk a little bit about our coverage, what's coming up. I want to thank everybody who's joined us for over an hour in the chat talking about this episode, whether you liked it or you didn't, whether you fell in love with it like Haskell or you were mad on it like Andrew Dick. The most important thing about being an SNL fan is that you were passionate. And I love that everybody was able to join us and put their comments in the chat. I hope to be able to do a live show maybe once every, 3 episodes or something like that. We're going to try and pick and choose where we do this, because I know, it's not something that we can do every single week, but we do our roundtables every single week, which come out on Tuesdays. So I have different panelists, including journalists, other podcast hosts like Andrew Dick, superfans like Andrew Haskell, who join us every single week, and they break down the episode. We talk a little bit more about the stats on those episodes. Our friend Mike Murray was in the chat tonight, and he does screen time and does all these crazy stats that we kind of go over a little bit more in those episodes, and we talk about the macro of things. So those are really fun shows. Those comes out on Tuesday. So if you haven't subscribed, what I'll ask you to do is please subscribe to us on YouTube or any podcatcher. That way you never miss an episode of everything that we're doing, because we do this for you guys, and it's just fun to talk about the show. Andrew Dick, tell me what's happening on That Week in SNL.
Ooh-wee. So we just put out the episode covering the Rob Morrow Nirvana episode. That was the first time Nirvana ever guested on the show, so that was a fun one. We also just had Arthur Meyer, who was a writer on the Jimmy Fallon show. He joined us to talk about Elliot Gould's first episode. And coming up, we have Mike Bloom to talk about the Larry David episode from season 41. That was the one with Bernie cameoing in it. So that's what we got coming up. Entertaining and informational discussion about vintage SNL. That's us, That Week in SNL. Find us wherever you find your podcasts.
Yeah, that's amazing. And Mike is a big friend of our show as well, so we love Mike Bloom. So that should be a great episode. I hope everybody checks that out as well.
It's terrible. It's a bad one, actually.
Well, your episode covering it, I think this will be interesting at least. Andrew Haskell, thank you for bringing some of our friends over from the Reddit. I know that you're very active on there and you were one of the moderators. Is there anything that you would like to plug?
Just, right here, follow me on Twitter. You can see some sketches I make myself, some spec scripts that I put out myself, and always love to come on Twitter and talk SNL with you guys as well. So yeah, just throw me a follow. I'd love it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, if you enjoyed this show, please let me know. I always like to get feedback so we can improve and make the show better for you guys. Follow us at SNL Stats to never miss an episode. And like I said, we'll be back on Tuesday with 3 more panelists. So if you didn't like what any of the Andrews have to say, we're going to bring in 3 more Andrews on Tuesday for you. So that'll be great. Anyways, I hope everybody has a great night's sleep and enjoys the rest of their weekend. If you're watching the Super Bowl tomorrow, I hope you enjoy it. Whether you're a Bucs fan or a Chiefs fan, it should be a fun one. So we will see you guys during the week and then next week as well. Have a great week, everybody. Thank you so much. See you soon. Have a pleasant week ahead.
Bye.